e lui pure lo dirà spero dopo, vi alzate da qui dopo, andate da lei e vi comprate un minimo di un biglietto della lotteria secondo due. Sono emozionata come il primo anno. Il primo anno c'è stato il mio principe azzurro di quando ero piccola, il capitano di UFO. Adesso finalmente, grazie ai suoi amici e colleghi che sono venuti qui, come dice il Pedroni, mettete le museruole agli ormoni.
Grazie.
So Bruce, did you like it?
Yes. Just reminds me how old I am. That's all. Very early footage, especially of Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Brings back many fond memories. Many fond memories. Anyway.
So how did you start?
How did I start? How did I start? She told me to speak very slowly.
Not so slow.
It's a very hard question to answer. How did I start? I started as a very young man in high school plays, drama. I fell instantly in love with performing, doing the high school plays. I did every play in high school from my sophomore year till my senior year. And then decided I wanted to be an actor. And where I lived, there were no actors, there were no theater, nothing like that. So I had to go to Chicago, Illinois, which was the biggest city. And I went to drama school there. And 3 years later, I was out working as a young actor in Chicago. I got very lucky and was cast in a play that took me to New York City. And then I was on Broadway, briefly, with another young actor named Ted Danson. I wonder what happened to him. I don't know, but he did well for himself, I think. And eventually, I didn't get a lot of work in New York, but I got a lot of experience just trying to learn the survival of an actor, the business of it. So I decided I was going to go out west and try my luck in Hollywood because I was very young, and I thought, you know, if worst came to worst, I could at least sleep on a park bench in California much easier than sleeping on a park bench in New York City. It was warmer. Anyway, I had a little money in my pocket. I had 4 telephone numbers and pieces of paper in my pocket, and I took off for the West on a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. And I decided that I was either going to make it there or not. So I've been there almost 40 years. And I think I did okay for myself. Okay. I was very lucky. I started on a very popular, my first job was on a very popular situation comedy called The Mary Tyler Moore Show. I had a few lines on that. And it got me my Screen Actors Guild card, and therefore I was a bona fide professional actor. And I started in small parts. I did a lot of 1, 2 line, 3 line parts on TV shows, and Hawaii Five-0, Loretta, Policewoman, oh gosh, I can keep going on and on. Gunsmoke, and that's when I was seen by a casting director. Her name was Pam Polifroni. I think that sounds sort of Italian. Pam Polifroni. Anyway, Pam saw me and cast me in this Gunsmoke episode. It was one of the last episodes being shot, the longest running hour-long television show, which was Gunsmoke. 21 years it was on. And little did I know that probably 6 months later I would be working with James Arness on another entirely different show called All the West Was Won. And the rest is history, that's right. Luke McCann became born, and was born, and I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world. I actually got to play cowboys. Oh God. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the real Bruce Boxleitner. Thank you, David. I needed the comedy relief. But anyway,
no, Bruce, I have to explain that.
Thank God he came along.
That's because...
What, I'm talking too slow?
During David's Q&A session, they asked him a question about you.
I just met the man. Anyway, so that was it. The rest is history. I got one part bigger, and got to do many things. But the fun thing was with James Arness was that he was, if I had a mentor at all, it was he. He taught me what it was to be the star of a television show, how you acted, how you behaved, your professionalism or lack of professionalism, and I carried that with me all my career. He was always a great example for me. And he never intentionally, set out to be a teacher to me. He led by example. And he was a wonderful man, and I'll always think of him that way. I buried him last year. He died, and I was his, one of the few actors in Hollywood that was actually one of his pallbearers. I was there because, I must have been special to him as well. So, anyway, and the rest is history. Went on to do a lot of television series. Babylon 5, certainly. Scarecrow and Mrs. King came along. along because I had done this film called Tron. And it was not successful when it came out. And I thought, well, that's the end of my film career. I'm going back to television. And I created a television series called Bring 'Em Back Alive. And that lasted one season, less than a season. And then CBS said, we have something better for you. And I got teamed up with former Charlie's Angel, Kate Jackson. And it's probably one of the greatest experiences of my life was working with Kate in that show. That was an amazing show. Unfortunately, in 1987, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. That's the only reason we ended the show. So otherwise, we would have gone on for, I'm sure, quite a few years more. Anyway, it was a great show. You all seem to have enjoyed it. And then it went, you know, an acting career in Hollywood, it goes like this. You go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. Very few go up, 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 up. You can only go so far. I kind of went up like this for a while. I always managed to keep working, keep working. Once in a while, I won't like that, but I rise up again. So I've been very, very fortunate to have a fairly long career. It's been, what, 37, 38 years now as an actor. Closing in on 40 years as a professional actor. So that's quite a track record, to tell you the truth.
And how did you land on Babylon 5?
Babylon 5 came along. They had done a pilot, and they had done one season. And Warner Brothers decided they wanted to have a different lead for the captain or the commander of the space station. And I had worked with the executive producer Douglas Netter before. I had done a Western with him, with Sam Elliott, and quite a few years before that. And so he remembered me, and he said, you know, I got a call that they were interested in me to replace this actor, Michael O'Hare. And I felt odd about that, replacing another actor. I used to think, you know, that's not something that you want to do or enjoy doing. But would I come over to the sound stages where they shot Babylon 5, and would I come and meet with the producers? And I did. And I had seen the show once, I think. And I found it very different from Star Trek. That's what I enjoyed about it. It was an outer space drama. It had a continuing saga, a continuing story. But it seemed darker, more mysterious, and more layered than the Star Trek shows. Nothing against Star Trek. They were always very bright. We were very dark. And I liked that. And so I met, and I had worked with the cinematographer John Flynn before. I had worked with many of the crew people before, so I felt very at home there. And I saw the material, and I just said, this is so beautiful, and that I could go to work here, and I could go home at night. So often I was having to fly to Canada or wherever and do these television movies, which I did a lot of in the late 80s and early 90s. So it was a chance for me to stay home, go to work like a normal person, put in a few hours a day, and then come home, you know. So anyway, I did started on Babylon 5, and the fan base wasn't all that excited at first. In fact, they didn't like me at all. Well, why? It wasn't the original captain. Science fiction fans are very particular. You know? They had become accustomed to Commander Sinclair, and who is this new guy coming in? So I had to strive to win over the Babylon 5 audience that had been established. And I think I did.
Yeah, you did.
I did in a way. And I loved it. I want to tell you, I still have great friendships with the remaining cast. We do get together once in a while, Mira and Claudia and Joe and Pat Tallman and Stephen and Peter. And unfortunately, we have lost quite a few members of our cast. It's very unusual. And so we miss them a great deal, and it's actually brought us living members closer together, you know. And But it was, I think, Babylon 5 of all the shows, and I love Scarecrow and Mrs. King, don't get me wrong. I loved it. It was great material, great writing. But so far as even greater writing, I think I got to do things, I got to do material that was sometimes almost Shakespearean, I think, on Babylon 5. It was the best material as an actor I ever got to work on, because it stretched me the most. I went from the emotions from A to Z. I mean, it was the entire range of stuff that an actor wants to do, you know, in one role. So, you know.
It's probably the best sci-fi series ever made, so you were lucky.
Well, yeah, God, I hate to say that.
I did say that.
You can say that, I can't really say that. But yes, I don't know if it's the greatest one ever told. I think for the amount of money we had to spend on it, we had to do with far less than Star Trek did. Star Trek had massive budgets. We had nothing.
So you had great script.
We had great script. So we like to call ourselves the little space station that could. In other words, we had to do more with less. I mean, believe me, you know, we shot it not on a sound stage at Warner Brothers Studios. We shot it in an old hot tub factory that had been converted to soundstage. It still had the sign out front, Aquatech. It didn't, you know what I'm saying? It was kind of our little secret, and so we kind of prided ourselves on being the cult TV show as opposed to the big mainstream hit like Star Trek. You know, it's funny that DS9 came on. What a coincidence! You know, they had that script over at Paramount for probably a little more than a year. JMS had submitted the Babylon 5 script, and they did nothing with it. I just find it strange that after a year he took it back and he went over to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers, you know, I don't think they were that enthusiastic. They left us alone all the time, which was great. We had no meddling from the studios, so we had no interference from them. They just let us do our thing. That was great. Then Star Trek comes out with this strange show about a space station called DS9, Babylon 5 DS9. It was too different. It was too close. Because Star Trek didn't have space stations. They were always moving, always going, you know. So I got a laugh out of that. But I made great friends. Jerry Doyle and I are still great friends. Oh, God. And, you know, we still hang together once in a while. So, you know, people ask me, why not have a Babylon 5 movie? Well, why not a new TV series? Well, TV, we're on television right now, we're not in outer space anymore. It's all vampires and zombies and, you know, people that have amazing mental powers and things like this. That's the kind of science fiction we're doing right now. We're not doing that kind of science fiction anymore. About outer space and alien worlds and things like that. I think it's a shame because I think we'd like to see that again, you know. I think my answer to when people ask me, would you ever do Babylon 5 again? And I really don't know, because I don't know that we can capture that same, whatever magic that was. You can't capture it again. It was of its time and place. And it's like capturing lightning in a bottle again. I mean, you can't, we don't have those same people. We're not the same people anymore. Because Joe had so many more storylines that we never got to tell. That's why I always got in arguments with him about this 5-year saga. I said, 5 years? Why 5? We've got 10 years here. And, but he just wanted to do it in 5. So he was the writer, he was the boss. So I think that it would be very hard to capture Babylon 5 again, even in a big movie. I know they did it in Star Trek, but we weren't in Star Trek. We were a very small, very different program. So, you know, that's my answer to them. They don't want to hear that. People want to always think that we can still do it again. But it's a beautiful dream. So, yes. Look at the boss here. She's trying to rush me. Anyway, most of you all know everything. You know my story better than me. Especially this group over here. If you have some questions, though.
Lei fa parte della National Space Society, yeah? Questa passione per lo spazio è arrivata dopo aver fatto Babylon 5 o è stata una cosa già precedente?
Have you ever been interested in space or just after Babylon 5?
Oh, no, during Babylon 5. I went to, I became good friends with many people at NASA. During that time, they used to come and visit us when they would see, in Southern California, there's it's called the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, it's JPL. It's a huge NASA facility. Where is it? It's near in Pasadena, California. So oftentimes, scientists from NASA would come out, and we always extended an invitation to them to come and visit our set. Many of the background shots when we would see our spaceships or the shadow ships coming, and you saw these great pictures of the nebula, those were actually provided for us from NASA, actual shots from deep space, from the Hubble telescope and things like that. We used the actual backgrounds, or animators did. But they would often come out, and I always found it very funny that they were fascinated with how we created this plywood space station made of wood, you know, and they never left the ground. And I would always say, you know, how can you be fascinated when you actually do the real thing? You're actually building rockets, the space shuttle and stuff like that. And they would say, but sir, you provide the dreams. We try to provide the reality, and take those dreams and make them reality. And I always found that, you know, just terrific. I've always been a science fiction fan. I mean, I grew up as a boy during the golden age of in the 1950s. Obviously, in the 1960s, when Stanley Kubrick said in 2001 we would find a monolith on the moon, you know, in the great 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've always been fascinated by that. I joined. I was asked by the National Space Society, the NSS, to be one of many, like Tom Hanks and some authors, Ben Bova, and so on and so forth, to sort of be on the board of governors of the National Space Society. I've gone to a number of their conventions and meetings, but I haven't in recent years. Not that I'm not interested, it's just, it's hard to do these kind of conventions and then go to those things too. I mean, it's quite an investment of time. But I'm still fascinated by it because I feel we've kind of let down the world right now. I mean, we were kind of the leaders in space. I want to see us maintain that. I think, if you remember in Babylon 5 when Captain Sheridan was talking, there was a speech, and I will paraphrase it, that humanity is kind of looking down at their shoes right now. We're not really, as a whole planet, committed to looking out at the horizon and trying to explore out there in space as much. We still are, but not as a unified world. And I think there's still more to be done. But that's my opinion. And, anyway, any more questions? Anybody else? I don't get to sit down.
Oh, yes, you want to sit?
Yeah, I'm an old man, for God's sake. I'm sitting up here. I want to look down. Anyway, yes. Oh.
Sì, ciao Bruce, volevo sapere se tu, diciamo, volevo sapere quanto i tuoi personaggi, tipo Scarecrow oppure Sheridan, hai potuto, diciamo, mettere del tuo, cioè hai potuto sviluppare questi personaggi, se il copione era rigido oppure potevi fare qualcosa insomma di personale, di sviluppare il carattere di questi personaggi.
No. That is called comic timing. You have to understand that you have many producers, you have many writers. Certainly, by my performance, maybe I'll stand up here, you're all straining to see. Certainly by my performance, I influenced the writers when they would watch me, the way I talked, the way I reacted. Then, especially good television writers, start to adapt the character to the actor's personality, speech patterns, you know, those type of things. That's about all the influence I really had. I never felt it was my job to be the writer or the producer unless I was the writer or the producer. I mean, my job was to be an actor. My job was to interpret the writers, the writers' thoughts, how they created the character. That was my job to do. If it was difficult for me, then certainly I would ask, like say if there was a line or some sort of part of the dialogue that I just couldn't do with any truthfulness, then I would ask, let's take a look at this. And certainly Kate and I used to take the scripts apart. I mean, Kate was a very smart, and is a very smart woman when it came to the material, what worked, what didn't work, and especially the humorous aspects of Scarecrow and Mrs. King. Because that's what we always looked for. It was we could have done it as a straight adventure story, which we did, but we always tried to find the quirky humor with Amanda and Lee. Those little man-woman things that I think you all responded to. That's the stuff you saw. We contributed that. We did a lot of that. And then the writers, being very smart, picked up on that. And they would write more of that type of material. But TV schedules are very, what can I say? They're very, you don't have much time. Time is your enemy, always, you know? It is always, you're up against the clock, as they say. So we pretty much got handed the material. We were doing it that day, or we were doing it the very next day. We didn't get a lot of time to digest the material. You had to just get it and go. So, because you had to make a movie every 7 days, a full movie. You know, an hour-long television show was, and back in those days, was probably 43 minutes of film. 60-minute television show, that's the other minutes were for commercial breaks. They always had to have commercials, you know. Somebody has to pay the bills. That's why we have commercials. And so, you know, we would love to have a lot of rehearsal time. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal time. But that's why they paid us. We were professionals. We knew how to do it. Get it, find it out, explore it while we're doing it. And then we would come up with whatever the humor we had. I always thought we had some very funny scenes together, you know. We were all laughing about them the other night. Lee and Amanda, two real, very different people that somehow found themselves in these circumstances together, and then established a real bond and then actually a love for each other. Though neither would ever admit it, you know, in many ways. Amanda more towards Lee. Lee would never admit it. Yeah. But he secretly loved her very much. And other people, and now people ask me too about would we do another Scarecrow and Mrs. King? I was just at a fan convention in, where was that? That's Toronto, Canada. And someone handed me a script about Scarecrow and his children. I have sons, and I would have, this is another case where capturing lightning in a bottle again is no way. I know even Kate wanted to. She finally, 2 years ago, she called me wanting to do Scarecrow and Mrs. King again. And I went, well, that would be sweet. It's a wonderful dream, but I don't think we'll be able to do it. They're not doing that kind of programming anymore in the States. But she had a very humorous idea, and I thought if it was Lee and Amanda, have since retired from the spy game, and when we're off getting in trouble all the time, and our children, our son and daughter, have to try to find us and get the parents out of trouble again. They're always getting in something. There was some kind of angle, but no one ever really pursued it. I think if we were going to do a reunion movie, we should have done it 15, 20 years ago already. I mean, truthfully. The audience has changed. The audience wants different things now, unfortunately. I'm going to miss it. But anyway, you have questions, sir? Did that answer your question, dear?
Yes.
It did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Allora, volevo chiedere se c'era un TV show, una serie successiva a Babylon 5 del settore di sci-fi alla quale avrebbe voluto partecipare tra le successive a Babylon 5.
Di fantascienza o
Di sci-fi, di fantascienza.
That's a very difficult question because Babylon 5 was too good. I mean, I don't know what's going to follow that. Another TV series? I don't know. Maybe you all know a TV series I would win good in. I don't know. I really don't know. I think after Babylon 5, it would have been very difficult to find something that I'd be interested in. I got to do everything on that show. I flew spaceships, I fell in love, I had fun times, I got to get killed and come back. It's one of my favorite lines in the series. Sheridan, we thought you were dead. I was, but I feel much better now. I love that. I love that. I think that was kind of the tops for me. The top show, I don't think of. What? No, never Battlestar Galactica. No. Terrible show. No, they exactly copied our show, the new one. It was dark, they had the same kind of uniforms. Battlestar Galactica had long hair, swords, and capes, the original one. It was Star Wars for television. And suddenly there was a lot of it. I never watched the show. I saw one episode and I said, I don't. No, actually, I want to do other things. I'm doing this show right now. Hopefully we'll go back into production in July. That is kind of a light comedy thing for me to do. I want to challenge myself. I don't want to go back and do the same old roles again. I don't want to do Captain Sheridan again. I did it. I don't want to do, Tron is a different story. I think Tron is going to happen again, hopefully, in 2013 for 2014 release. And I'll reprise the role of Alan Bradley and Tron again in some younger body. I love Tron, I do. I actually, because it's lived longer. Tron actually, in its own naive way, predicted the world we're living in now, the age of information, the computer world, and the video game world. So it's actually more current than Babylon 5 or any of those, as far as science fiction is concerned. Plus, there's an entire audience that has grown up around it now, young people that weren't even born when we did the original one, and so I'm very thankful for it because they called me up and they wanted me to be in the next one. I was very thankful because they didn't have to. Well, that's an interesting story. On the original Tron, we were not up for an Academy Award for animation in the year 1982 or 82 because they said we had cheated. That we weren't animation because we used a computer. Well, all animation is done by computer now. There's no such thing as someone drawing something, you know. They draw it on a computer. So, anyway, that's all I know. I would love to do a great love story. I really would. If anything, I want to do a love story again. A straight-on love story, because I haven't been able to do that in a long time. And in real life and in fiction. And anyway, that's okay. I want to do something different. All actors want to. I don't want to rest on my laurels. So, anybody else? Sir.
Hi. Have you seen Star Trek in the beginning? And how do you feel about the portrayal of your alter ego? Of course, if you have seen it.
No. Where was it made?
Sweden?
It's I don't know, in Sweden or in Finland.
That could be why I haven't seen it.
Watch it.
Is it?
Watch it.
Oh, I love it. I have a joke on myself. That would be good. I love it. Anyone else? Stefano, my good friend.
Alla fine degli anni 90 hai scritto un paio di romanzi di fantascienza.
Yes, I did. Frontier Earth Searcher. Yes.
Al di là del fatto che se ci raccontassi qualsiasi cosa sul perché, sul perché di questa cosa te ne saremmo grati, io volevo farti una domanda specifica. Leggendo il primo, l'unico che è stato pubblicato in Italia, ho notato che pur non essendo un romanzo non particolarmente lungo, riesce comunque a tracciare un background abbastanza complesso, cioè riesce a definire un intero universo di razze diverse, di questi come dire, sorta di guardiani.
Un attimo,
Do you want to get up here?
Sorta di guardiani, insomma, quindi ne fa crea un background piuttosto complesso, perché mi è venuto il dubbio che all'inizio il progetto fosse magari quello di la sceneggiatura per una serie televisiva o qualcosa di simile. È qualcosa che ho capito solo io o è effettivamente così?
Stefano, that was the idea, yes, to start a series. Understand that I did that in the last 2 seasons of Babylon 5. I started on that. Took me almost 2 years agony trying to do that. I was approached during Babylon 5 by a publishing firm and a publisher named Mark Greenberg, who published Arthur C. Clarke. I mean, many great science fiction and crime fiction authors. They came to me because, if you remember, William Shatner had many books that he had done. Okay. Well, he did have a lot to do with it. Yes, he did. Actually, yes. But you know, he wasn't a writer. I had help on mine too. I had an author named William Keith help me structure the story because I'm not a novelist, but I had a story to tell that I wanted to tell, and they were good enough to publish it. I mean, I'm sure there are some writers like one back in the room that goes, "Oh, damn him," you know. No, but you know, I had an opportunity to do this. Now, my intention was to tell a story that I thought could be a television series or a couple of movies. Unfortunately, last year a movie called Cowboys and Aliens came out and seriously bombed. It killed all my chances. I have been trying to sell Frontier Earth for 12 years or more. Sam Raimi's production company has it right now. They haven't done anything for over a year with it. I think when Cowboys and Aliens came out, you have to understand in Hollywood, when they see something similar, and if it doesn't work, they run from it. They don't want to have anything to do with it. So, a science fiction Western right now probably wouldn't be a good sale. Now, here's what I am doing. I'm trying to pursue the video game industry with it. I know, Stefano, it would make a better TV series, but believe it or not, the sophistication of video games now is becoming more and more incredible to me. And PS3 is marvelous. My sons have sort of educated me on these things. And we're starting, I think maybe there's a way to adapt the story to a sophisticated video game, in which I can tell the whole book and have the player be able to be various roles in it, and so on and so forth. There's all kinds of possibilities, but right now, I couldn't get anyone interested in it. I was just happy with the books, and the people like the books. I think they're great. I've been asked if I would want to do any more books. No. I had the one story I wanted to do, and that's it. You know, I mean, I don't really have the muse anymore. It's a lot of work, and I'm too lazy. But thank you, Stefano. Yes, ma'am.
As a director, what kind of movie would you like to direct?
Believe it or not, I like to direct a very small picture, like a very kind of, only a few characters to start with. I had the opportunity to direct Scarecrow and Mrs. King. We went off the air before I could do it. Kane had directed 2 of them. And that's where I wanted to start to learn the directing trade, because I was interested in that as well. Most actors are. Babylon 5, we were never allowed to. Stephen First was the only one that was ever going to do it. But he had already some directing credits. But Joe Straczynski did not want any actors directing. So, okay, that's fine. You know, he's the boss. But I think a small character piece, I don't know, a love story, or maybe some sort of coming-of-age story with some young people. I feel I can work with young actors very well. Something on a small basis, because then you graduate to something bigger, perhaps. But a small independent film would be kind of nice. Who knows? Who knows? Thank you. Oh, God. Why did I not guess that Juicy would have something to say? Here she goes. Yes, ma'am.
L'ultima puntata di Babylon 5 è bellissima, è anche molto triste. Flora la sa che ho pianto tantissimo. E l'ho vista solo una volta proprio per questo, perché è stata bellissima. Volevo sapere se abbiamo qualche aneddoto su questa puntata.
Story about that? Oh, I have a little big story about that. You have to remember, in the fourth, we had a 5-year story. 5 years. On the 4th year, we got canceled. Of course, every year we were going to be canceled, but somehow we survived. Suddenly, we were going to do we had to wrap up the story. And Joe wasn't prepared to do that. We had to think of a way to wrap it up. So when we got to the last episode, Sleeping in the Light, you have to understand, we were all very, very sad. Very, very sad. The show was, all the actors really loved their roles. They loved the show. We felt it our mission to do the 5 years that Joe had set out to do. Then we got this news that all actors, when you suddenly find out you're going to be canceled after this long time, we were very, very sad. So he wrote a beautiful script, especially for Sheridan and Glenn. I think so. Like I said, I got to do material that I would never be asked to do at that time. And I got to play this man from a young man to an older man who never got to really get a lot older because he had given up years of his life. Remember, in the 3rd season, I had to give up 20 years of my life. And so he knew that the day would come when he had to leave. He would die, not as a very elderly man, but as an older man. So I grew my beard out. I started on Intersections in Time, was it? Where I was being interrogated, remember, by the Inquisitor there. I started to go and shave it, and I started to grow the beard, and then about 3-4 weeks later I had a beard and everything. And so that I could play the older Sheridan. Joe had a beard then, so Sheridan had to have a beard. Joe Straczynski, John Sheridan, Jeffrey Sinclair. Is there a pattern here? Yes. So, anyway, when we did that episode, it was amazing because even the actors that weren't working that day came to the set. The secretaries out in the offices came and sat under the camera, sat on the set. Everyone weeping. It was not hard to weep. It was like a mourning. We were all mourning the end of the show coming up, and we felt we had failed. We didn't get to finish the saga, and so it had a lot of resonance. I mean, it was a very heartfelt episode. It's so beautifully written. I don't think I'll ever have a more beautiful exit out of a series than the bright light shining, and and it was very emotional between Mira and myself. We had become very, very close during all of this, and it wasn't hard for Mira to recall saying goodbye to loved ones that were going to die, because she'd come from the war-torn Yugoslavia, and it was very real to her in those kind of circumstances. So, like I said, I would look out, we'd be sitting there and there's the camera, and I'm seeing everybody, all sitting, all the tears, people. You know, it was very tough, very, very tough. And we had a huge party. And they wanted to take a big picture of all of us. Now, I don't know if you've seen that picture here in Italy, but there's a big picture of the entire cast up against this wall. And we're all posing, and we're all giving a certain gesture towards the network, towards Warner Brothers, towards everybody in the world. And it comes from this. This. It's that. In America, that means you know where you can put this. And I've signed many of those pictures. That's a very, very popular picture. So that was. Then suddenly, suddenly we get this call that the TNT Turner Network wants to pick us up. So suddenly now we're back in it. We're all joyous. Oh my God, it's all done. So Joe has to try to cobble together now everything. That's why the 5th season seems, it's not quite, it feels cobbled together. Do you know what I mean by cobbled together? Just sort of trying to fit things back together again, and then he had to try to all tie up at the end of the 4th season. So now, so he did. And we also did 4 television movies, which I loved. So then I had to shave the beard off. And we got picked up when we started this movie for TNT where it's called In the Beginning. So now I've got to be the young officer, the young guy way before Babylon 5. So then I cut all my hair off, got sort of a military cut, and dyed my hair to be now 20-something. Which I tried to talk very high. Anyway, but it was really challenging. It was a lot of fun. We were very, very sad. very happy that we got picked up again. And then we got sad again a year later when that show was, we were coming off of that. And there were rumors going around that there was going to be a spin-off. TNT wanted a spin-off called Crusade. And, but none of us were going to be in it. And then it got sad again. So I got very, very sad again. And I did the last movie, it was called Call to Arms, and it was kind of my character's way of passing the torch on to the next group on Crusade. And I left the studio and never came back. So that was it. And then they did Crusade, and it didn't work at all. So it kind of had a bitter end to it. We were rather bitter about it all. I think they could have continued it on with us. Some of us in it. It might have helped you, but who knows? That's hindsight now, as they say. So. Anyway. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hi.
My wonderful interpreter for the last 2 days, I must say.
Thank you.
She is.
Hi, Bruce.
Yes.
I'd just like to know a little more about something from the behind the scene of the TV and cinema industry. You know, because most people have a kind of a romantic view of these projects, these TV series and movies, but being involved in the industry means that you see the not so romantic aspect of the process. And also, I had a curiosity. You said before that one of the reasons Babylon 5 was allowed to be so good, it was because the executive didn't meddle too much with you, left you alone. Seems to me like an unspoken, unwritten rule. You know, the more they meddle, the executive meddle, the worse the TV series, the worse the end result at the end of the day. Is it true? Anything you can tell us about working in this field? Thank you.
All right. Well, you're asking a lot there. I mean, I can say specifically that it is an industry. Okay. I come from a very blue-collar background, so I kind of looked at it as a factory job. I would come to the factory every day, do my job, press the ticket, and leave at the end of the day. You know? I tried to not take it home with me. I always tried to leave the work at work. It is television is a very intense time. You're never sure if you're going to be on the next week. Believe me, I did many television pilots that never got sold, that never made it to the screen as a series. I've been in a number of motion pictures, big motion pictures. Never as a lead, but always as a supporting player. I've always enjoyed that. Tron was one of the few leads that I had. But the industry, I think the public looks at it and they see the finished product. We as now, I can only speak as an actor. I only see a little small part of the whole process. There are so many more people involved in the pre-production, post-production, sound effects, photography, the publicity, oh gosh, there's so many, I mean, hundreds of people are involved in each project. And I never get to see this. We come in and we do our little bit, and we leave. And then they put all the little bits together, and we have a movie, or we have a TV series. God bless you. Anyway, so it's like I say, I only see my little corner of that world. But it is an industry. It is, which is rapidly changing again because of technology. Technology is replacing a lot of people, unfortunately. You have to adapt to it. The actor always has the same job. We haven't changed in 1,000 years. I mean, it's basically, now we can also be, like you saw with Tron, we can be made, we can be drawn. So actors are having to deal with animated characters now more and more. Recent movies, starting with The Lord of the Rings, the character of Gollum. He was one of the first ones. I mean, some actors today feel that isn't acting. I personally do. I think it's just another, it's like wearing another sort of makeup. You know, like the aliens on Babylon 5 had to wear makeup that covered them. Now we can be animated. It's still acting. Still acting. You still have to do the same performance. Only now you're Beowulf, or you're, what are the characters we've had now? Animated characters. Tron in Clue, in Tron Legacy. Jeff acted all of his role, all of his part. It wasn't something he did in the post-production. He actually did it. He had all these motion capture things all over his face. I did too, in the young sequences, the flashback sequence of Tron Legacy. That was me doing all of that. I'm not quite the same stuntman that they used as my body, but I did all the facial stuff. That role for the actor has changed. We have a new trick in our bag of tricks to use now in our storytelling. But I think the public perceives, to answer your question more directly, the public perceives show business as so much more glamorous than it really is. It's not. But Hollywood will never let you ever see that. We want you to think it is glamorous and romantic, and you know, it's all these beautiful people being beautiful, and we walk around being beautiful all day, and everyone drives a limousine. And, no, that's not the case at all. Hollywood needs the illusion, and you, the audience, needs the illusion. It's important. We don't want you to see how it really is. You'd be bored and walk away. You know, I mean, it's the magic factory. We have to keep the magic going. I think you want it that way too, don't you? I mean, you agree? Yes. Rafael.
Allora, innanzitutto volevo sapere se ci puoi dire qualcosa, se ce ne puoi parlare di un terzo film su Tron.
I would love to answer that question about a third Tron movie. All that I know is that there are script meetings. I can only tell you, I don't know the storyline, but I think if you watch Tron Legacy, you see the beginnings of another story. Sam Flynn says to Alan, I'm going to take the company back. Ooh, yes, ooh, there we go. And so there's some stories that, you know, I think that's where it's going to go. It's going to be about how does young Sam bring the story back, or the company back, how does Alan Bradley help him, and how they're going to do that. And his Clue and his minions, are they going to be reborn and come? I think they're going to try to make it into the real world, which should be interesting. I don't really know. No one tells me anything. But the plan is, if the movie is made, it would be in 2013 or 2014. The director right now, Joe Kosinski. I have all the Polish directors. He is doing another film right now. He just started. So until he's finished, then they can maybe concentrate on Tron 3. I don't know. They just had a massive financial disaster called John Carter happen, and that might change everything. You know? It's all about the economy. So I hope everything. But more importantly, I have an animated series that I'm doing now, Tron Uprising, with Elijah Wood, Lance Hendrickson. There's a huge cast: Mandy Moore, Paul Rubens, and that's coming out in June in the States on the Disney XD channel. I'm sure you'll be able to find it somewhere. XD, yes. And it's really good. It's very, very good. So, Tron lives. Somewhere. But I say boom boom.
Il suo carattere come uomo, quale dei personaggi che ha interpretato è più simile?
Well, I think every character I've played has a little me somewhere in there. I would probably say the closest to, well, I would probably say Sheridan and Scarecrow, strangely enough. Scarecrow was very much me when I was in my 30s. That was the 1980s, that was my 30s. So he was very much me. Sometimes I was a little short-tempered. Sometimes I was a little too gregarious. I don't know. Scarecrow was very dear to me, and Sheridan was very much me in my 40s. I don't know. I think that they're all a part of me. I put a lot of myself into them. And so it's kind of a hard question to answer. You know? They're all a little bit of you. You know, that's what the actor does. You put your own life and your experience and try to use the experiences of your life in the circumstances of the character. And that's how you read it. Does that answer your question? Yes.
Ribalto la domanda. Hai invece ricordo di un tuo ruolo che non ti è piaciuto, che non hai voluto interpretare, che ti sei pentito di aver interpretato?
Oh, God. There's quite a few roles, especially ones recently. Yes, I needed to have, I have two categories in my life. There are money jobs, and there are career jobs. Money jobs when you got to take a job because you need the money, okay, to pay the bills. The career job is something that you do because you know it will extend some aspect of your career. You will have people see you in another light, you know, and see you that you're able to be in a comedy, that you can do drama or whatever. There's a few money jobs I wish I hadn't done. I think there's one called Bone Eater that I don't ever want to see again. It sounded like a porno movie. But that was strictly a money job. And Transmorphers, I think that's another one that I didn't want to do, but I did it because I needed the money. But that's all. That's all. Oh, God, it follows you everywhere.
Ti piacerebbe tornare al teatro come attore o anche per una regia teatrale?
Oh, as an actor, I definitely would. Yeah, I want to, yes. But there has to be an opportunity. No one wants me. I suppose if no, I would love to, but I would only want to go back and do off-Broadway or Broadway. I don't want to go do some small theater in Idaho somewhere. I want to go, if I'm going to do theater, I want to do big theater. I don't want to do small. You know? No, I just don't. I'm an actor who's been around for a while. I have a name, I have a reputation. I want to do something where it will be noticed. When Melissa was doing the Little House on the Prairie musical, we were in New York 2-3 years ago, and I was in New York again, and I kind of got the interest again to go back, and I almost got a casting agent there, and I was, if we were going to have to live in New York for a while, certainly I would have auditioned or, for plays again. It's been over 30 years since I've been on a theater. I mean, that's a long time. And I think maybe what I want to do now is do something that would scare me a little to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? I would love to do something that would be risky again, because that's what brings the best out of you. Or something where I'm kind of challenged, something I haven't done before. I might fail, but I'm going to give it a try. That's what I like to do. And theater would certainly be an opportunity to do that. Because once you're out on that stage, once the lights go up, there's that audience. No one says, cut, let's do that one over again. Like we do in television. You have to, the show is on, it's live. And there's something thrilling about that, being in front of a live audience, like you.
I wanted to ask if you have some funny behind-the-scenes stories for us.
Oh God, I don't think any I can tell in mixed company, but no, maybe have a tissue or something like that. A borza. Look at this. She's got everything. Thank you. I hope I'm not catching a cold here. Anyway, funny behind-the-scenes story. Many funny behind-the-scenes stories. You know, they had one on a film. They had it on a clip of. I had just gotten on Babylon 5, and remember the little speaking thing we had there? There was a little piece of resin that they glued to our hand every day, and then had to rip off and we had no hair. Anyway, in one scene, I had to dramatically go, Bridge, Sheridan here, or no, they called me, and I said, Sinclair, go ahead. And they had that on film, and they never let me forget it. Everyone laughed at me so hard during that time. Kate and Jackson and I had a lot of outtakes that were, you know, a lot of situations where we would end up start laughing at each other, and we couldn't stop laughing. Kenny Rogers and I. Now, Kenny was not an actor. He was a performer, you know, a singer and everything, but he was not an actor. And something I said in the first Gambler movie we did together, and he started laughing, and then I started laughing, and then we said, cut, okay, now we'll do that over again. And then all I had to do was look at him, and he started laughing again. And then it got into such that we couldn't even look at each other for 2 seconds. We were in hysterics, we were crying, we were laughing so hard. And that happens often, you know. Claudia, Christian and I would do that all the time too. I had the greatest time with Claudia because I worked with her the most when I first got on Babylon 5. Claudia was, it was Ivanova and Sheridan alone. She was kind of showing me the station, helping me get settled there. And so Claudia is a very wonderful performer to work with. She's just fabulous. But she's a wild woman. She's crazy. As you know, you let her have a drink or two, whoo, she's off. But we had a lot of outtakes that ended up with, oh shit, or something like that. You know, I mean, it would be terrible cuss word and swear words, so we couldn't really ever have them on camera, you know, show anybody those things. But no, there's so many, but you kind of had to be there, you know what I'm saying? The one with Sinclair here, that, I don't know where that came from. I was Sheridan, my God. You know, so, do I want to blow my nose? Can I blow my nose now, please? Encore! DNA! 500 euros! Oh, I got a little lightheaded there. 5 minutes? I'll tell you when we're done. Okay? Anyway, go on. Somebody else. Oh, God.